Today I want to talk to you about keeping it safe when we are having conflict in our relationships. A lot of the times when I see couples, I notice that they sometimes get stuck on four type of behaviors that are not usually conducive to having safe conversations. One of the part of my training has been in Gottman, a theory of Gottman training, and I'm a level one, took level one training in Gottman, and the Gottman method. And one of the things that Dr. Gottman mentions in this training and trains us participants and therapists on is on these four horsemen of the apocalypse when it comes to conflicts or conversations around in conflict. What happens is that as human beings, we need to feel safe to be able to have conversations that are productive and for us to actually get through to the other person. Because our brains are wired to always seek safety. They're always seeking ways to protect themselves. So when one of these four horsemen, as Dr. Gottman refers to, shows up in a conversation, our body might, or the couple or the person that is going through that conversation might see it as something to protect themselves from. So I wanted to talk to you about those four horsemen of the apocalypse today a little bit, mention them and see if they are happening in your conversations with your partner or even with your family members and friends, because these show up in any type of relationship that we have. And if we want to be able to have productive conversations, we have to make sure that we create safe spaces to have these conversations. So the first one is criticism. Criticism is usually takes in the form of the you never and you always. Whenever you start a conversation with you always do this or you never do that, that's basically the body or the brain takes it as an attack. The response that you usually will get from somebody when you start with that, oh, because you never do that, or you never do this, or you're always doing the same thing, you're always leaving the towel on the floor, immediately the brain wants to try to defend itself or protect itself because it sees the criticism or it sees the words or hear the words as an attack. And so one way to try to minimize criticism is to be able to express what you're feeling from a place of like what is it that you're feeling, and also just focus on what's happening at that moment, or what is the issue that you want to address. So if you want to talk about the towel that is constantly on the floor, is constantly being left, is saying, hey, I just want to let you know that I feel this way. I feel undervalued, or I feel like that what I do here at home it's not paid attention or valued. When I see that the towel is constantly on the floor, after I will prefer that it gets put in the hamper instead of just being thrown on the floor. Is it possible for you to throw the towel in the hamper instead of in the floor moving forward? In that way, when you address a person that way, let's say when addressing the towel, you're coming from a place of not attack. You're mentioning taking responsibility of your feelings. I feel this way when I see the towels on the floor, and not accusing anybody that you're making me feel that way or you are the who is making me feel this way, but it's taking responsibility about your feeling, and then asking for what you need, which is I really need in getting those towels back into the hamper, and not bringing back the past, because you always leave the towels on the floor and you never help out, you only think about yourself. Remember, those are words that the brain sees as an attack, as a criticism, and the person that is receiving that most likely will want to defend themselves and not really listen. The second horseman of the apocalypse is contempt. And contempt is like sneering or kind of mockery, or those kind of jokes that basically make the other person feel like they're dumb, that they're stupid, that they're not really whatever they are saying is not that important. And you'll hear that a lot in couples, and they'll say, oh, but I'm just joking, or why you take things so seriously? You're so sensitive. Whenever the other person who's receiving the contempt might say, look, this doesn't feel good, or I don't like that you say this or that, the other person might immediately say, oh, you're just too sensitive. But at the end of the day, it's not just being sensitive, too sensitive. It's about being respectful to each other, and really treating each other with the respect that you both deserve. You know, as an adult, that when you do mock somebody, or that when you are kind of sneering at somebody, or you're kind of like, rolling your eyes like, oh, here we go again, you are showing that person that whatever behavior that they are conducting is of displeasure to you, and that you're doing it instead of saying it appropriately and letting them know, this is what I'm uncomfortable with. You're just displaying behaviors of kind of sometimes childish behaviors. So instead of practicing contempt in your conversations with your partner or any other family member, just be able to be respectful and be able to state again your needs. What is it that you need, and what is it that you're feeling? Taking responsibility over your feelings and asking for what you need. The fourth one is defending, and defending shows up really with the no, because I'm always this. Oh, of course, I always am the bad person. I'm always this person, and it's a kind of a way of like pulling away from engaging in the conversation, or whatever that person feels that is conflict. So by immediately kind of saying, oh yeah, of course, I'm always a bad person, and being kind of the victim, it's telling the other person that I don't want to engage in this conversation. That actually makes the other person also feel or receive it as that you don't respect me, you don't listen to me, you don't care. And it's because you're not taking any responsibility, even a little bit, of what's going on. To counteract that defensive horseman, let's say, is that you should be able to take at least some part or some responsibility from what's going on. So if it's about something that happened in the home, or just take some responsibility in the sense of like, even if you don't agree with what the other person is saying, but just saying like, I can see, or I can try to understand why you saw it that way, but this is how I see it, or what I really wanted to do. So take some responsibility instead of immediately throwing the hands up and saying like, oh yeah, because I'm always a bad person, because that is really undermining the relationship that you have with that person, and undermining the conversation. The last horseman is stonewalling. And usually stonewalling happens after so many conversations that try to start, or even conflict, or when the brain perceives that it's conflict that starts, and the person starts feeling flooded, like, this is too much, I can't handle it, I'm already getting mad, I'm already getting too upset, or I know that this is not gonna go anywhere, so I'll just stonewall. Stonewall means I just give up, I just turn myself away, I turn my body away from the conversation, I turn everything off from the conversation, because I'm done. I can't handle it anymore, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of having this conversation. So one way to counteract that is that to not continue to disengage in a way that leaves the other person just hanging, because what happens is that the other person is going to continue to insist for you to come back to the conversation, because they feel like you just left them hanging, and again, not feeling respected. When you're feeling overflooded with emotions, when you feel like this is not going to go anywhere, just let the other person know, hey, I need to take a 10-minute break, I need to take a 20-minute break so I can calm down, because I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed based on this conversation, and can I come back to you in 20 minutes, in 10 minutes? If it's not 10 minutes or 20 minutes a day, whatever you think is appropriate for you to come back and not have to stonewall and just pull out of the conversation. What is key here is that you let the other person know, hey, I think that I need a break, and that you let the person know when you're coming back to the conversation. Don't just say I need a break and not tell them when you think you can readdress whatever you were talking about. So those are my the four horsemen of the apocalypse that Dr. Gottman trains on, and that if they continue to happen in your conversations, they tend to really create a lot of insecurity and a lot of, let's say, even more conflict in your conversations with in disconnection in conversations with your family members, with your spouses, with your partners. And I also gave you the antidotes of how to resolve them. I hope to see you next time, and take care, and I hope that these were useful for you. Bye-bye.